welcome to the Ambitious Women of Color Summer of Leadership series, where we use the next few months to intentionally become the obvious choice for leadership roles. I'm your host, Jessica Lynn Rojas. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you know about something I created specifically for the women listening to this podcast. It's called the Paid and Promoted series, a free 5-day coaching experience for ambitious women of color who are doing great work but aren't seeing the leadership, opportunities, the recognition, or compensation they know they're capable of. And I want to be honest with you about why right now is actually the most important time to go through this. You see, most people think career growth happens during performance review seasons, but the conversations that shapes next year's opportunity are often happening right now during the summer. Review season is usually when those decisions get announced. The conversations that influence those decisions are often happening months earlier. The women who step into bigger opportunities next year are building towards them right now. That's exactly why I'm spending this summer doing the work alongside you. We're documenting our impact, building our leadership stories, and intentionally becoming the obvious choice for what's next together. So if you're ready to stop hoping somebody notices your potential and start intentionally becoming leadership material, head to the show notes and join us inside Paid and Promoted. Now let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Summer of Leadership series. I am so happy that you're going through this journey with me. So, quick update. So the interview happened already, and I want to talk about what happened after because I don't know the results yet, but more about like what happened in my head. Because honestly, I think that it's more useful than anything else that I can share with you right now. So I finished the interview and I felt really good afterwards. Like I actually felt like I showed up the way that I wanted to show up. Like I've been focusing on showcasing my leadership and using that opportunity not to prove that I am the most perfect fit for the job, but to just show my leadership capabilities, show the way that I think, and show the way that I'm already being a leader in my current role. And I was really proud of myself too, because I answered a lot of questions without looking at any of my note cards. I didn't get as nervous as I thought I expected to be. And I talked through like my thought process, what I noticed in each of the situations I learned, how I influence things. And at one point, one of the hiring managers stopped me after a question I asked towards the end. And she was like, I've never been asked that question before. That's a great question. And I remember that moment just thinking like, I felt like me. I felt like the leader I've been becoming this whole summer. Then after a few hours, my brain just started going, like our brain normally does. And I remember thinking like, did I ramble? Was I taking too long to get to the point? There was this one question, right, that I blinked, like I had to stop and pause. And I just started walking through as I went. And in that moment, I'm like, okay, bring it back. And I did. But sitting there going through the call in my head, I'm like, oh no, was that bad? Did it look like I wasn't prepared enough? I just kept thinking about that one interviewer or expression where I just couldn't read it. It was a poker face. And I'm like, I don't know. Does this mean that I'm not doing well? Maybe I should have practiced more out loud. Maybe I took too long with the other question. So I just caught myself. And then I realized like, okay, I know what this is. This is the same thing that I've been talking about all summer, right? About how we are already having evidence of our leadership, but then we second guess it. And then we start overthinking and overanalyzing in our head. And then I was just like, no, Jess, we're not going there. So if you've been with me all summer, here's where we've been. So first we started talking about the proving trap. So how working harder and making yourself the most dependable person in the room is actually what's keeping you out of leadership roles. And then we talked about positioning. This is where I share how I'm going through this interview process myself in real time as I'm bringing this summer of leadership. An opportunity opened up and now I'm going through this and having these conversations with you so that you can see like the behind the scenes of like how I'm going through it and preparing for it as well. And then last week, we talked more about evidence, how women of color don't often recognize your own leadership because you've been doing it so long, you just think, well, that's just doing my job. And this week, this is where all of it gets tested. All of this that we've been going through, processing, and realizing, and bringing to light. But as I've been going through this myself, I realized something I wasn't expecting. So I've been practicing on becoming the leader that is required for the next role all throughout this year, but focusing more intentionally on it this summer. But one of the things I realized as I'm going through all this process with you is that I've been practicing this whole year on being the leader that is required for the next role. But one of the things that I wasn't practicing is like, how do I trust her once I get there? Okay, so let me stay in that moment because I think this is real stuff that's going to help you. I don't know if you ever gone through this. Maybe you had a big moment like an interview or a performance review conversation with your manager. And in that moment, you feel okay, like even good. And then it's over and then you're alone. And then your brain starts going through every single thing you said. Like I kept coming back to that one question. And the question was about managing multiple stakeholders with different opinions of priority, which is a lot of my work now. And I have so many examples. But in that moment, I blinked like for a second, but I can feel it. Like I had to pause. And then I just started talking it through. And then I walked them through as I went. And as I was talking, I'm like, okay, this is actually a good example. This is actually showing how I think. But afterwards, like when I went back to think about it, I'm thinking about the blinking and the pause and thinking like, what did they think when I did that? Did I lose them in that moment? It is just, I started replaying that in my head. And there's this thing that happens when you start trying to like edit the interview in your head. Like, oh, I should have said it this way, or I should have given it this specific example. And then you're basically trying to control something that's completely over and done, and you have zero power over it anymore. As I just sat there for a second, I was like, okay, what is this actually about? And here's where I realized. In the past, the proving looked like working harder than everyone else and taking on more and making myself indispensable. So this was, past me. In the last few years, I shifted into like, okay, we have to be intentional. We have to position ourselves, build relationships, document evidence, show our thinking. That is what I had been focusing on the last year. And after the interview, it showed up as, am I not doing enough? Are the answers the right answers? So it's the same thing about like wondering if I have to prove myself and be the hardest worker, but it just looked differently. And I just kind of said to myself, like, okay, stop. You showed up as the leader you've been becoming because you are her. You talked about your thought process. You talked about what you noticed. You talked about how you influence things. You talked about what you learned. You asked questions that made one of the hiring managers stop and say, I've never been asked that before. You did the best that you could do, and that's all that you can do. And now you just have to let it go. Not because I don't care, I really do want this role, but because replaying the interview in my head is not going to change anything that already happened. The interview is over. What they think, what they decide, what else they're talking about, none of this is anything that I have control and nothing that I need to be holding on to. And I think that's the hardest part about growing into leadership. It's not about the preparation or even about showing up. It's about letting go afterwards and just trusting that you did the best that you could and that you showed your leadership in that moment. But okay, here's the part I really want to talk about because it's the part that surprised me. Even after that conversation with myself, even after I came back with the evidence and reminded myself that I actually did show up as a leader, I had a different thought creeping in. Not that I'm not good enough or I can't do this work, because I actually know that I can do this work really well. And I'm already operating at that level. I'm already been getting feedback. I'm the type of leader that this role requires. It was more like, what happens when the real pressure of this role is on? Not like the interview pressure, but like the actual day-to-day pressure leading at that level in those specific portfolios with those specific stakeholders. And I learned a lot about what they're looking for and what are the dynamics and what are the challenges in those portfolios right now. So I feel really confident about my abilities and being able to bring what these roles actually need. But I still had that thought creeping in. Like, what if I'm in over my head? Or what if this affects the work-life balance that I worked really hard to have and now I'm over my capacity? But I want to name something here because I think it's important. This is actually something that I've coached my clients through before. I have worked with them through getting past this doubt or getting past these thoughts. And I've also dealt with that myself. For women of color, this is not something new because a lot of us spend so long trying to prove that we belong in rooms that weren't designed for us. When we actually get there, the questions shift. It becomes, can I actually stay there? Did I somehow get here and people are going to figure out that I'm not the right person for this role or that I don't fit into this space? But in that moment for me, that wasn't actually what went through my head because I know that I can do this work. I've been doing it. I have the evidence. What I had to remind myself is a lot simpler than that. I did what was mine to do. I showed up as a leader. I showed them how I think, how I lead, the evidence that I already have. And whatever they decide, it's up to them, not up to me. And I had to remind myself that the fact that I was second guessing myself or replaying the interview in my head doesn't mean that I did anything wrong. It just means that I really want this and that it matters and that I'm stepping into something that excites me. It's not a warning sign. It's a very human, normal response when you want something and you're just have that maybe fear, or maybe you get those thoughts because you want something and you don't want to be disappointed if you don't get it. And then something happened the next day that helped me get back to, my self-trust and knowing what I bring. So I had a meeting with this director I've been working with closely for now, and we were reviewing progress on some work we've been collaborating in. And we were going over the improvements we made and how this impacting her organization. And she was really pleased, not like in a polite way, but in that the work is actually moving forward. And I'm just sitting there in that meeting thinking like yesterday that I had the interview and then I was going through that spiral about like wondering how I showed up. And then here I am with a leader who's already experiencing me as one, a leader who has actually recently given feedback about my performance and said really strong things about how I lead and influence. And then I thought, okay, like maybe one thing's uncertain, maybe we don't know what's going to be the outcome, but that's okay because you're already the leader. You're already being experienced as that leader. And not knowing might not be certain, but this is something that you certainly know. And that helped me, feel more grounded. Not like everything's fine, but more like, okay, I know who I am. I know what I bring and I know what's true regardless of the decision. The evidence is there. And then what they choose is the only part that isn't for me to worry about or focus on or have any control over. Okay, so I want to bring this back to you because I know not all of you are interviewing right now, but hoping that you can resonate with this and that this can help you. Because I think you may know this feeling too. Like maybe you had a hard conversation with the manager that you've been putting off forever. And now you're in a space like, okay, will anything actually change? Maybe you raised your hand for something and now you're second guessing on whether you should have. Or maybe you actually got a promotion and now the doubt's coming in and you're wondering like, what do I actually do at this level? And all those moments have the same thing underneath it. You showed up, you took the courage, and now your brain is looking for evidence that something went wrong. And I just want you to ask yourself the same thing I had to keep coming back. What do I actually know? Not what I'm afraid of, not what I'm replaying. What do I actually know about how I led? How you think, how you showed up when it matters. Because that's real. That's something nobody can take away from you based on a decision or what happens afterwards. So here's something that I really want you to sit with if you're in one of these waiting spaces right now. Just 3 questions. Number 1, what is mine to do? How did I prepare? How did I show up? What did I actually bring? Not what you wish you would have done differently, but what you did. And then number 2, what do I already know? Not what the outcome is or what does that say about me, but what you already know about how you led, how you think, how you handled hard moments. And if you've been using the tracker on the Paid and Promoted series, pull those out and actually look at what you documented because it's all there. Everything that you need and all the evidence is all there. And then 3, what am I releasing? What are you still holding on that you don't need to? The decisions, what they thought of you, whether someone else was more prepared. Write it down and then let that belong to someone else. Just release, let it go, and trust. Because here's the thing. The evidence is yours no matter what the decision. The way that you think, the way that you lead, the way that you show up in high stakes, none of that changes based on one outcome. It was already real before the opportunity opened and it will still be real whatever happens next. And I want to end by saying something about this summer, or at least where we've been this summer. Because I started this series wanting to give you something useful, something practical that would actually help you to use these months intentionally to position yourself for the next level and to make yourself the obvious choice for the opportunity before it opens up. And then what ended up happening was that I went through my own version of it alongside you in real time without even knowing how it ends. And what I learned, what I really didn't see coming, is that becoming a leader is one thing, but trusting yourself after you become her is something that you have to keep practicing. because the doubt is still going to come. It's not going to go away. It just shows up somewhere new in a quieter voice, in a moment you thought you were past, after the interview, after the promotion, after the moment you finally raise your hand. And the practice is not making the doubt stop. It's catching it, questioning it, coming back to what you actually know. I prepared as a leader I'm becoming. I showed up as the leader I've been practicing. And then I trust that I'm her. And I trust her. That's the work. Not just for the summer, not just for the interview, not just for, the next goal. It's ongoing, it's imperfect, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but you have to practice trusting the leader you've been becoming this whole time. She's real, even when you doubt it, especially then. So just trust her. All right. So if you've been with me all summer, thank you so much. Really, thank you. Sharing this while I'm still in the middle of it, before I even know how it ends, that was something that I had to talk myself into every single week. And I'm really glad that I did. And if you haven't grabbed my Paid and Promoted series yet, it's free and the link is in the show notes. This is where it all starts. The impact tracker, the leadership trackers, the beginning of your own leadership evidence portfolio. You can get that all by starting that Paid and Promoted series. And if you're in the waiting space right now, I just want to leave you with this. You can want something deeply without making the outcome responsible for proving who you are. The evidence is already there. Trust what is showing you. And let me know what comes up. I love hearing the parts of this that you recognize in yourself, because I guarantee you have your own version of this story. You could DM me on Instagram at Jessica Lynn Rojas and tell me where you are in your own process right now. Thank you so much for being here with me today. See you next week. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with this. This summer isn't just about preparing for our next opportunity. It's about becoming the kind of leader people already trust before the opportunity ever opens up. The woman who communicates her value, who makes her impact visible, who influences decisions, who's already being experienced as leadership material. Because promotions don't just happen during performance review seasons. They're built in the conversations, the relationships, and the moments that happen long before anyone posts the job. That's exactly why I created Paid and Promoted. It's a free 5-day coaching experience where we'll spend this summer documenting our impact, building our leadership stories, and intentionally becoming the obvious choice for what's next. And I'm doing this alongside with you. As I continue to position myself for my own leadership opportunities, I'm using these same tools, asking myself the same questions, and practicing the same strategies I'm inviting you to practice. Because I don't want to just teach you this. I want this to be something we live together. And if you're ready to stop hoping somebody notices your potential and start intentionally building the career that you want, head to the show notes and join us inside Paid and Promoted. And if you're ready for more personalized support, send me a DM on Instagram at Jessica Lynn Rojas or book a sales call at jessicalynrojas.com/scheduling. Take care of yourself, career baddies. Vámonos.